Hi, this is Tina.
And Mary.
And this is Bird Barf.
Yay!
Yay!
Actually doing it at the computer again.
Yes, and it's just me and Mary, so unlucky for you guys.
Sorry.
You're stuck with the original duo.
Yay!
Yay!
Sort of.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
When did we do our first one?
It was around the time that 2015 started.
Yeah, so actually we're kind of hitting... We started doing these about a year ago, so this is we're back full circle again for 2016.
Yes. So,
and we're not going to stop anytime soon, so that sucks.
Yeah, sorry again.
Oh, well.
But...
Speaking of 2015.
Yeah, speaking of 2015, this episode, is that what they're called?
Yeah.
Tina learns what a podcast is.
Yay!
So it's a year later. I still don't know. This episode is going to be a 2015 retrospective on our Goodreads challenge, which is a reading challenge because it's Goodreads and they read.
Yeah.
So, duh. And Mary and I both did 50 books.
And we both actually finished
50 books. So we're going to talk a little bit about, that experience and also some of the books that stood out for us.
Yeah.
So just to talk about the experience for me, which was kind of like a love-hate, I love reading, so I thought, 50-book challenge, no problem. I probably read that many anyway. Well, the problem is that this year I had some big life changes and decided not to read for a month and a half, and so the rest of the year I was ahead, and then I got really behind, and then I had to read, on average, a book every 4 days for, like, a really long time, and then I kind of sort of hated reading, and it became a chore. So I don't think I'm doing this challenge again next year because I want to like reading, because I love reading, and I want to be able to read books that are over, like, 500 pages, because I pretty much stopped doing that because I couldn't do that in 4 days, because I have other things, like a job.
Yeah, you start looking at books and going, I don't know, this might take me too long and throw me off.
Yeah.
But that being said, I'm doing it again next year, and I bumped it up to 55. So I'm sure that by this time I'll be just like you. So I will put our Goodreads account names and stuff, links in the description. So if you want to join in, or if you want to start competing with me, we'll go ahead and do that. It'll be interesting.
Yes, or if I, decide to give in, like it's probably going to happen, and do the challenge again, because it's me. And if I do something once, I'm like, I need to do this again, and I need to do more. Yeah.
It becomes a habit.
Yeah. I'm, crazy. So, you could possibly compete with me in a few months if I, suddenly have read a lot.
She will.
Yeah.
So join in.
We'll see. It's not guaranteed. But anyway, so we can start off with, we're going to discuss a few things, good, bad, and maybe mediocre, and also biographies.
Yes, we've read a lot of autobiographies for me specifically.
That was one of the, I think, highlights for me, is I never read any nonfiction books, and doing this challenge, I read 5 either biographies or autobiographies, which is huge for me since I don't think I've ever read one in my life before. I pretty much only read fiction. Yeah. Unless I had to read something for school, but otherwise I only read fiction. So it's new for me, new change.
Yeah, and I'll pick them up only if I'm interested. It was funny because this year, a bunch came out that I was actually interested in, because normally I'm much more fiction too. I don't really want to read a lot of nonfiction, but I read a couple really cool nonfictions, and then autobiographies. Like John Cleese had his, Felicia Day had hers, which we talked about. And I read one by David Suchet, who just finished playing Poirot, but my favorite autobiography was actually Agatha Christie's. And I love Agatha Christie. Agatha Christie's the crime writer. She is, the mastermind. She's amazing. And she wrote this autobiography that spans just so much time. And it's an amazing work. Like, I think it was funny because I'd sit there and just be engrossed in it. And I did not want this book to end. Like, I'm just like, no. Like, normally, you're counting what page you're on. You're like, oh, I got this far into it. This time, I'm just like, no, there's not enough left. And that was a new experience for me, just how much I wanted there to be more and more and more, because it was so good.
Yeah. I think I enjoyed all of the autobiographies or biographies. I read Mindy Kaling's book, Felicia Day's book, one of Chelsea Handler's books. I like that one the least, although it was okay and a quick read. And also Neil Patrick Harris. And then I also read Half Broke Horses, which was a biography by Jeanette Walls, and it's basically about her grandmother's life. And it was really interesting. Her grandmother kind of had a fascinating life. And I heard a lot about her autobiography, which I have not read, but I will probably eventually read. and how good that was. But one of my coworkers lent me half-broke horses, and I was like, not really my thing, but I decided to give it a try, and it was actually really good. So yeah, and then the rest of them were comedies because they're all comedians, and they were all really quick reads and fun reads. I liked all of them. Well, Chelsea Handler's was kind of meh, but the other three were really good.
Yeah, and mine, I mean, we talked about John Cleese and Felicia Day, but David Suchet's was great. It was really a sweet retrospective on Poirot. And like I said, I did read two, like, separate, just general nonfiction. One of them was called Make Art, Make Money, which was examining the Jim Henson business model, which is fascinating, because all I do is read Jim Henson books.
Mm-hmm.
But the other one, which I picked up just for the hell of it, because I liked the title, was called The Professor and the Madman, A Tale of Murder, Insanity, and the Making of the Oxford English Dictionary by Simon Winchester. And I'm like, this sounds ridiculous. And it is completely fascinating.
Yeah.
And it's all about the making of the Oxford English Dictionary, and basically how one of the guys there were two people who primarily drove the whole thing, one of which was an academic, and the other one was in an asylum for being crazy. And it was just like, the way it came together and how it all happened, and like this weird sort of friendship almost, it's completely fascinating. And I did not expect it out of the book, but I'm just like, this is crazy. And funny. It's a funny book. Like, it's well written. It was very impressive.
Yeah. I did not read it, and I probably won't, but...
Yeah, I remember telling you about it. I was, like, reading you passages.
Yeah.
I'm like, listen to this!
Yeah. So Neil Patrick Harris's autobiography, and I don't know if he's done more than one, but I've only read one of them. But it was really interesting, because he basically wrote it in a way, like, you could pick, like, different paths. Like, you could just decide, like, you had a terrible childhood, and you go here, and, like, you click different links, and so I, of course, didn't do that and just read it straight through.
That's funny.
Because I can't skip around in things. It breaks my head. So I didn't read it how I was supposed to, but I was scared I might miss a page. Because, like, I was like, how does this work? But it's, like, really interesting and really fun way to read an autobiography. Like, basically pick different directions in his life and, like, read random made-up stuff and then real stuff. So that, like, really stood out. It was really quick read. It was really fun, though. I love him, though, so that was why I chose to read his. But also, the library had it, so... on digital. Why? They need more digital copies. If you're a librarian listening to this, get more digital copies of books so that I can read them. Anyway, so some bad. Let's go to bad and end with good.
Okay.
Some bad books that I read, and there were two that really stood out. I read a lot of meh this year. Like, I wasn't super...
Yeah, it's when you read 50 books, you realize just how many books out there are kind of like...
not really worth talking about, not terrible,
we were going through our list, just like skimming through, because we've got the app on our phones. We're just kind of like skimming over like tens of books.
Yeah, I'm like, meh,
I read this.
It's fine. But one I won't talk too much about because we did a podcast on it, and one that was really bad was Holy Cow by David Duchovny.
Yeah.
Listen to our podcast if you want to know more
it was
about
actually,
what we thought.
the second one we did?
Yeah, it was really early on. And then the other one that I did that was really bad was Infected by Scott Siegler, and it made me realize that there's something really, really severely wrong with Amazon reviews, and they're all fake, and they all suck, because it has, like, 4.5 stars or something ridiculous, and I bought it when I was at a book fair, and I was like, oh, this is cheap, I'm just gonna buy this, and I checked Amazon really quickly just to see what the reviews were, I'm like, well, that's a safe buy. So I bought that and the sequel. Would never read the sequel. I think I'm going to burn them. It's so bad. It's so disgusting. I've never read a book that's more gross than that. Like,
what's the topic?
It's like a end of the world, like, infection type scenario. But I
guess it explains the title.
Yeah, and I thought, like, okay, well, I like end of the world scenario books and movies and stuff. So, like, oh, this is a safe, bet for me. It's absolutely disgusting. There were like scenes in there that were so graphic and so disgusting. And I'm not easily grossed out, like, by any means. Like, I just am not. But it was nasty.
Yeah.
And I had to finish it so that I could add it to my Goodreads account. And that was, like, the one that stood out the most. Like, I hated it. I think that's the only book I've ever given a 1 star on Goodreads.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I would have given it 0 if I could.
If it would have still shown up as a rating.
And I might consider book burning just to burn that book. And its sequel, which I refuse to read. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have too many that made me just, like, want to punch myself in the face. I do agree about David Duchovny. I was really disappointed by that. I mean, I read a lot of cozy mysteries. I read 2 that, like, The Princeton Imposter, I think, was one that really pissed me off. I just thought it was poorly done.
That's how I felt about that Barry one. The Barry one. It made me really angry.
Yeah, this one, Princeton Imposter, no. Because I love it when, like, the protagonists are teachers, because reasons. And it just... and, you know, so there's a couple. But one, this isn't a cozy. This was something that should have been a clear win. It was called This House is Haunted by John Boyne. And I looked him up, and I think he's written, like, a string of bestsellers. So another one where you go and look, and it's got good reviews, until you go on Goodreads, and then you start seeing the 1 stars.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at this
now
book.
I check 1 star. Like, I always did, but when I'm in a hurry, I don't. But, like, I usually check the 1 stars and see if the 5-star or 4 stars are real.
Yeah.
Now, because I don't trust Amazon reviews.
Yeah, and if the 1 stars are written with good grammar, because if it's stuff like, this book sucks, and you're like, okay, that doesn't count. But, you know.
But normally you'll get some really thoughtful, like, 1 star and explaining why the rest of them are all fake.
Yeah, I have a pretty lengthy 1-star review of this one. It should have been a win because it's basically a haunted house story. It's a gothic haunted house story. Well, not necessarily I think it's more Victorian, actually. But pseudo, it's a newer book, and it's just awful. It is boring. Like, I don't know why he thought it was okay to write this, but there was a scene where someone's hand gets burned, and she has it under, and the faucet just goes, like, burning hot, so she gets a scalded hand. So the description of her so she goes into the cupboard and searches for ointment and a clean cloth. She picks up the clean cloth from the bottom shelf, goes out into the other room and sits down. And then it's like she put the ointment between her hand and the bandage. It's like,
oh my gosh.
As opposed to swallowing it? Like, I know how this happens. And it was just like, you get so caught up in this pointless detail. And it's like, I don't know how an editor let that happen. Like, who looked at this and said, yes, this is definitely a good description that we need to have in this story. Like, I'm not a moron. You know, it's just
right,
like,
yeah.
What?
You know how ointment works for burns, like, it's common sense.
And it was just like, that was such a frustrating book, and it made me so annoyed. Like, I felt, that was my not a good one.
Yeah.
But on the flip side then, for my good, I did get a good ghost story, which is called Ghost Story. By Peter Straub, and it's actually considered a
clever
classic.
title.
Yeah. And it was one of those where I was looking for, like, you know, a good horror book to read. Because I've read a lot of them, and this one, it was like, you know, read this book, and I found a copy of it, and I think I said Peter Straub. And while I was reading it, I was kind of like, this is strange, it's a bit creepy, whatever. But there's something about it where, as I was reading it, I started having dreams about it.
That's weird.
Like, so, you know, you're reading something and you're like, you think you're not affected by it. And then as I'm sleeping, I'm getting these nightmares. And I'm like, it's clearly this book. And it happened as long as I was reading it. And a little bit afterwards, I just had terrifying nightmares. And I couldn't even tell you what they were about. Like, you'd wake up and you're like sweating. And then I'm just like, what just happened? Damn that book. But it's very long. It was written, I think, in the 70s. So it seems daunting, but it's worth getting through just because if you want something scary, that book is insidious. It really is. It gets into you and you're just like, ah. So that was a good one. What was one of your good ones?
One of my good ones was Backseat Saints by Jocelyn Jackson, who was one of my favorite authors. She's more of like a Southern, like she usually writes stories about like women in the South and like current, but like sometimes they're romance, sometimes they're just like about women, and I just really like them. They're really entertaining. This one was about a woman that was in an abusive relationship. And she was like trying to get away and trying to escape. And she also had kind of a weird relationship with her mother. I think her mother abandoned her when she was a kid. And it sounds really dark, but just the way that she writes stuff is like either funny or like more lighthearted or more just like it is what it is, but like it's not depressing. So I really liked that one. And do you want to do another good one? Before I just continue.
We both read this one, but Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern.
I really liked that, yeah.
And that was one, I just saw it at the library and I liked the cover. And then I remember hearing that it was one that was written in for NaNoWriMo, which is something I do every year. So I was like, oh, cool. And I
really like the atmosphere of that book. Like the tone and the world that she created was really cool. And I want to live in the circus.
I know, it's really interesting. And it's just the whole surroundings of it and the setup and the characters and stuff. There's a very individualistic tone and perspective that I haven't seen often.
No, I haven't really read anything quite like that. No. And the premise is like two magicians who have to compete with each other and like keep like one-upping each other on in the circus.
Yeah, and it just kind of keeps going and encompassing more people.
And so you see, like, all these crazy, like, different, like, and it's so visual. The story is, like, just, you can really see it and, like, picture everything and the different, like, rooms they create and the different...
Yeah.
Because the circus has all these different really freaking cool rooms.
Yeah.
Like I said, I want to live there.
Yeah. I just want to go to it. I want to go in
I want to go
I want it to roll into my town, and I want to go to the night circus.
Yes.
But that one was a lot of fun. I actually, this is ridiculous, but I read two Tomb Raider novels, which they came out with a trilogy of them in 2004, and I only was able to get my hand on the first two, because for some reason the third one is really fucking expensive. No. Like, we're looking on Amazon, it's like $70. What? Pay $70 fucking dollars for this? Are you kidding me? But the first two, and of course, I can't remember what they were called right now, because I didn't write that down. One of them was The Lost Cult. That was the second one. And they're surprisingly well written. Like, they read like thrillers. They're not, and then Lara goes bumbling off into they're like action and cool, and they're what I want out of Tomb Raider. I have a lot of problems with the current iteration of Tomb Raider in the games, and these books are how I associate with Lara. She is an adult. She's mature. She's in it for glory and knowledge, and she is very single-minded, and I love the way they portrayed her in these two books, as opposed to, I mean, I understand what they're doing now, but that's a different topic altogether. But I like loved them, and I really, if someone out there has the third one that they aren't using, I'll take it.
So one of my other ones that I liked, and I didn't love it, but it's worth mentioning just because it's so popular, is Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman.
Oh, I'm reading American Gods right now.
Yeah, so I enjoyed it. I thought it was good, and if I had probably read it before I've read other books like similar, I probably would have liked it much more when I was younger. But I did think it was good, and I do understand why people love it. And it was just a fun read. And I will read probably more of his work, although I did not read American Gods while I was doing the challenge, because I didn't know if I'd be able to finish, because I've heard good and bad. Not bad, but like just... it takes longer to get through. It seems to be
one of those that people sometimes don't finish.
Yeah, and Neverwhere seemed like a safe one for him. Like, everybody seemed to really like it, and it's a pretty quick read.
Yeah.
And so I did. I liked it. I liked the tone. I liked the atmosphere. I don't remember. It's about some stuff. It's about a guy who goes into, like, the underbelly of, I don't know, New York or London or something or another. Sorry for the people that are really big fans, and I'm destroying the description of this. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking about it, because clearly I don't know as much about it as I thought.
I'm trying to see what else we've got. I read a couple, like, sort of classics. I read The Lost World by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and I'm obsessive with Sherlock Holmes, and so I figured I'd try Lost World. I thought it was really interesting. I don't think I'll read any more with Professor Challenger, because I wanted to punch him in the face all the time. But in general, it was really cool to see this sort of pivotal novel in terms of that sort of genesis.
Yeah.
I really like Shirley Jackson's Haunting of Hill House. And one of my favorite books ever is We've Always Lived in the Castle, which you read.
Yeah, I read, and I really liked it.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to expect. And it's really short, but it's like really, it really stays with you.
Yeah.
Like, it's
another book where it's just like, it's a perspective that you don't, Maricat is like the weirdest narrator, and it's just so...
And you don't know, like, what to think. Then you finish, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, this girl is weird.
And I think
the stuff in the story is weird.
Yeah.
It's worth reading.
It's absolutely worth reading. Yeah. If you're doing this challenge, it's a short book, and you want something
you'll get through it quickly, and
it.
it's worth it.
Yes. And so is Haunting of Hill House, which is something, it showed up on my list because I reread it, and apparently I hadn't put it in before, so it's in there. But I really love it. And so I decided I'd try some of Shirley Jackson's earlier works, and they are definitely not as easy to get through. I read Hangsman, which is confusing. It's interesting. You can see the genesis of her writing style and how everything kind of comes together, but I was not as fond of it. And I'm sort of in the middle of another one called The Bird's Nest, but I did not finish that one in time for this challenge because it was just... It's difficult. I'm not sure about that one. But did you have other random ones you kind of read?
I read Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn.
Yeah.
Because I love Gillian Flynn, and I love...
Sharp Objects is really good.
Loved Gone Girl, and I really like Sharp Objects. It's really kind of disturbing.
Yes.
I've read also Dark Places, which I didn't like as much.
Yeah, Dark Places, it's all right. The movie is terrible. Do not see the Dark Places movie.
And I haven't seen it, nor will I.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
But Sharp Objects, I would recommend. It's really creepy. It's a really good story. And she did a good job with it. I really liked it.
Yeah.
And another one that I read was Red Rising by Pierce Brown, which is a super popular, I think, YA dystopian. I guess it's dystopian. I don't know. It's like also like sci-fi, like whatever in the future, whatever shit is happening. And I really enjoyed it. I read that and I read the sequel, and I enjoyed both of them.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for the third and final one to come out in February. So, but I do recommend that one. It's I've read several YA novels, and it's one of the better ones, and YA is hard for me sometimes, because sometimes it's like, okay, why am I reading about a 12-year-old? And he's 16, really but whatever.
Yeah, I don't read a lot of YA at all. I have nothing against it, but same thing where I just have a difficult time.
Yeah, because I also read one, it's called Uglies, and it seems to be popular, but I just didn't really like it very much. It just felt really immature, and they use the word pretty every other sentence, and it was just annoying. Because she's pretty, and because she's pretty, and it's pretty, and it's just fucking annoying, and I couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
So I was kind of leery of trying another one, but I did, and that was Red Rising, and I really liked it.
Okay. So, I will say, and just to end it off, which I thought was really funny, and I only realized it today right before we were preparing for this, was that I began and ended my year with Gillian Anderson.
Yay, Gillian Anderson.
Yeah.
I did not read her second book yet.
What?
But I will have to. I'm stealing it from Mary. I'll read it.
A Something of Fire and a Dream of Ice, the Earth End saga. And that was the Fire book was the first one I read, and Dream of Ice was actually my last one. So I've bookended with one of my true loves, so that's exciting. I love her because she's insane.
Yeah.
So am I.
X-Files soon, yay!
X-Files, oh my god!
Because we can't go podcast without mentioning it.
Yeah, we have to mention X-Files. We're legally contracted by ourselves. Yes. X-Files!
Yeah. So, all right. Well, thanks for joining again for a very long podcast.
This is one of the long ones. If you stuck with us, we're really happy. But otherwise, So, if you read any of these, let us know if you've got any recommendations.
Yeah, or follow us on Goodreads or whatever that's called.
We'll probably follow you back because we're both really competitive. So we'll just be like, "Oh, more people," and then we'll add you. So.
I have 2 friends. It's fine.
Yeah, come to us. We will come back. So it's great.
All right.
All right.
Well, bye.
Bye.